Hi everyone, it's Darlene from Darlene's Creative Studio. We're going to be working on another prompt today. Today is day 6 and we're going to be using the prompt create using a file folder. I have a full file folder here as well as some scraps, and I thought we could maybe try making a couple of different little things out of file folders today. Let's start off first. I've got some of the old family history pages that I might use on the cards. I've got some floral pictures from a book that I might want to use on the cards. And again, these are a bunch of scraps that I have. And then I also have a full file folder if we want to use that. So this is what I'm going to start working with today. Let's start by doing our card. Let's get that done and out of the way here. So we're just going to distress our card very quickly. Gives everyone a chance to decide what they're going to be working on today while I do this. Put that over there. Oops. I always put this away and then I need it, don't I? Okay, let's add our number 6. Day 6. And we'll add our little wreath. There we go. We're going to glue this into our little book here. So day 1 was use a book plate. Day 2 was your favorite scrapbooking paper. Day 3 was create a trifold flip out. Day 4 was work with an old photograph. And day 5 was let's create a fabric collage. So let's put in our day 6 here. Now some days again I may use 2 of the prompts in what I'm creating. But it doesn't mean you have to actually glue the prompt in, because you might want to use that at a later date. But I believe, putting 2 of them together kind of gives you some ideas. So there's day 6. Oh, I got to write on the back here, don't I? So let's write on the back. Need a marker here. We're going to be using file folders and scraps, book pages, distress ink, and I have the inspiration for one of the ideas from a clothing tag that I have, so I'm going to write that on there as well. And that's January the 6th, 2020. Okay, let's get the little book out of the way and move the distressing out of the way. So this was a clothing tag from my sisters. When they shop, they always save their clothing tags for me. And this was the inspiration I was thinking of using to create today. It actually is a clothing tag, and it has 3 little cards inside, and it was a jacket that they bought. And it's like a little file folder. It has these little tabs on the top. And it's got a little bit of a spine there so that the cards will fit in. So I thought I would go ahead and try and make something like this today using file folder scraps. So I've taken a file folder. Now these are pieces that I've cut off when creating a book or something, so it has the fold in it. So this is a large piece that was a scrap, like that. And then these were some of the other pieces that were pieces that I cut off. So I've just cut them down to a size that I thought would work. So this little clothing tag is 2.5 inches by 6 inches. So I'm just going to, I think this one is already, yes, this one was already 2.5 inches. So I thought this will work perfectly. And then these ones I've cut to 2 3/4, because I'm going to have to leave that little bit of at the top for the tabs. So this will be our, what I'll call our cover. Oops. And this will be the insides. And I've just used whatever I had. There's 3 there. We might want to add another one a little bit later on, but that's what I'm working with. And then the file folder has these little score marks in it already for when the file folder expands, when you put files in it. So you can see here it has the score marks here. So I'm just actually going to bend this one on the very first score mark. Like that, so that we end up with a little tiny spine that will hold our little pages in there. And then they will just slide in like that. So we could almost fit another one in there, but I'm not going to, because when we start adding things onto these pages, it'll get a little bulkier. So we're going to go ahead and cut these off at the 6 inches. We know we want the right length, so we'll cut these off at 6 inches. And you must make sure that you cut with this spine flat. So you're going to cut from the first fold to 6 inches, and then you're going to flip it over, and you're going to make sure that you have your score mark folded and it's sitting up against your cutting board, and then you're going to cut 6 inches from there. So you got to remember to account for this little spine being in place when you cut your 2 6-inch marks. And then these will be cut down to 6 inches as well, which I believe they already were. So these are 6 inches by 2 3/4, and then we'll create our tabs on the top. So let me go cut this piece right here. 6 inches. And then the other side. That one in there. And I'm just going to grab my scissors. I left one side a little larger so that I could actually make sure I didn't cut it too short. So I'm going to make sure that's nice and even. Hold that nice and tight, and then I'm just going to trim this little end off. Saves me cutting it too short. There. So there's our cover, 2.5 by 6 inches with our little spine there. And then these I'm going to actually create. Now these are single cards. So I'm going to try and figure out how I'm going to make these tabs at the top with a folded card. That's going to be fun. So we're going to start from this end here, and I think I'm just going to round that end corner. And I'll show you how I'm doing this. Let me move this all stuff out of the way. Oops, wrong way, this way. Move all my pieces here. So I'm just rounding that one corner. Actually, I'm going to round both corners on this one. And then I'm going to create a 1 1/4 inch tab from this end. So I'm just going to mark it. And then this is going to go into my punch, where you create your envelope indent. So I'm going to put that in there. Actually, I'll do it from the other side. Makes sense, Darlene. Let's do it there. So let's go ahead and put that in. So that little mark is right in the center of your tab punch, like that. And then I'm going to be cutting this piece off the top there. So from about there down, we're going to cut that off. So we want to do the same thing for the second one. Let's not squish our tabs here. So the second one, we're going to have our piece starting here. Actually, no, we don't want them to overlap. So the second one's going to start there. And then we're going to have our tab punch, 1 1/4 over. So I'm going to punch it here. And on that other mark, like that. So now we have, this will be our end one, and this will be our second one. So we're going to be cutting off that piece and that piece, and then we're going to be cutting off that piece. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing to the next file folder. I'm just going to use this as my template. So I'm going to mark off where the center of this one is. So that's where I want my first one to be, my next one to be. So I'm going to punch one there, and then 1 1/2 there. So let's punch the first one. And then we're going to go 1 1/4 over. And that will be our next one. Make sure I got it in the center there. So I'll be cutting off this piece, and I'll be cutting off this piece. That's the front one. And then we're going to mark the next one underneath. So this will be my tab, punch, and here. That will be my next one. Like that. So we'll be cutting off this part and this little part here. So there's my first 4. And then I think the last one will just make our tab at the end again. So I'll round out my corner on my end. That didn't work. I didn't cut. There we go. And then we're going to go 1 1/4 over. And let's punch that one. Actually, we can, no, this doesn't like cardstock. So say you can punch them both at the same time, but like that. And then the next one will be 1 1/4. And I'll punch these 2 marks there and there. So we'll be cutting off this piece and we'll be cutting off this piece. That's our end tab, so we'll be cutting off there. So those will be our tabs going across. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move this out of the way. Get rid of my little bits here. And that's my cover. It's not, I've done this before. I'm working on a project and I pick up a piece that is part of my project and end up cutting it. So let's put that somewhere safe. And I'm just going to mark across. Now you can cut this on the cutting board, but because it has a fold in it, it's going to make it more difficult. So I think I'm just going to try and hand cut these and eyeball them like so. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some lines on these where I can cut these across. Let's see how this looks when I cut them. There's one. And we have to cut this one down here like that. And then just cut that across like that. So there's our tab. And the same with this side. And we cut this one across. So there's that one. Let's cut this one. And we're just going to cut it right from that little curve and over. And this height should be just a little less. I don't know if it's 2.5 or I'm just going to check here. Yeah, it's approximately 2.5 inches tall. There. Straighten out our tab. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go ahead and do this one. And I always make a pencil line just to give me a straight edge to follow. You can try and cut it without them, but I just don't want to have a wonky cut. Which would happen if I tried to do it freehand. Okay, so we're going to cut down there and cut across. There this one. Get on the line there. Perfect. And look at this one. Like that. So there are our 3 pieces with our little tabs across the top. And they will go inside the cover like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate them, and then I may sew these into this little spine here. So let's work on, I think I'm going to distress all the edges of this just because I find the file folder a bit too stark. So we're going to distress the edges of that. Let me set my file folder aside. The other thing I was working on with these scraps, I have all these little pieces that are different sizes and widths. Anything that's too small, I would make a business card out of, which a normal business card is 2 inches by 3.5. So if I have enough smaller pieces, I would make them into business card sized pieces that I can use in some of my books. The other thing that you can make is a little tiny journaling card, which could look like a little file folder. So you can add your little tab on the top, and you can maybe add a little picture, which is why I have these floral pictures here. I did cut one out. And I thought maybe I could put one on the little card on the front, and then on the back add some lined paper, or just leave it blank and distress it and someone can write on that. So that's what I might do with some of the scraps, is make some of these little cards. Here they are. So these are some of the scraps that I've just cut off. There's one right there. Now I've lost the card. I just had it in front of me and now I've lost it again. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking of doing, is making these into like little cards with the tabs on the top. Okay, so that's some of the scrapped ideas. I'm going to go ahead and measure some of these out. I might also use some of this, our family history paper, and maybe put that on, cut that down to size and put that on the card so we have a journaling card. I'll cut some down to size and distress them and see if we like those on them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distress those. I'm going to measure out some of these pieces to see if I can get some of those little file folder sizes. You do have to have it high enough for a tab and then maybe big enough to hold the photo. So I have to make sure I have enough room on the top, so this one will work, that I have that little tab spot. So I would go ahead and let's see if I can do one real quick here. And we'll work with, I'm going to move that out of the way so I don't end up cutting that. So if I'm going to put the flower on this way, so put it on this way, I want the tab to be on this end. So I'm going to round my corner first of all, and then I'm going to cut my 1 1/4 inch tab on this side, like that. And then I'm going to be cutting off this piece here. Let's just eyeball it, which I'm not very good at cutting straight lines, so there we go. And then you can just round all your other corners. And I know this file folder is really a thick file folder that I had. And then we can add the little picture on the front like that. So I will distress these as well once I get some of them cut, and maybe distress the picture as well, and then add some lined paper on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and distress this file folder, this little guy, and this little guy, and then we'll see what we can do to add some decorating on them. So I'll be right back. So I've gone ahead and gone through all my scraps. I've distressed all the edges of my little booklet here. I've cut out all the scraps to different sizes. I just used what the size they were, added the tab, and tried to keep them within that 2 3/4, 2.5 inch size. So there's a couple in that size. I've distressed 2 of them. And then I have a couple more in, some that are skinnier, so it looks more like a little file folder. And then some that are a little bigger. Again, just using the size of the scraps that I had there. Here's some skinnier ones, some smaller ones. And these are great for adding to a journal or a pocket somewhere. Just distress them and add a little picture on one side and maybe distress the other side, add some lined paper, and then you can use them as a tab. I also have this little punch that I could use on the other side, and it will leave little lines with the little boxes. So there's a lot of options, and again, this whole challenge for me is using the items that I brought with me on vacation. I was cleaning out my drawers, my cupboards, my boxes, my bags of scraps, and just brought a few things that I thought I could use up while I'm here. So I'm really using the limited amount of stuff that I have here. When you're doing your prompts, you may be in your studio, you can grab book pages and stamps and stencils and all kinds of things and add to these. I'm just using what I brought with me on my vacation. So there's quite a few of these little file folders that I've made. There were some longer pieces that I wanted to save the length of the piece, so I just cut them into tags. And then there was some that were already the 2 inches wide, and these are then the thicker card. The file folder was a really thick one, so I just cut these into the 3.5. So these are business card size. So I could use these for different kind of business cards. If I had to make up something on the fly, I could make up a quick business card with my logo stamp. So these are using my scraps from my file folders. And what I'm doing with this particular little set, I've done 2 of them, and I've just distressed the edges of the file folder and distress the edges of the picture of, and then this was one book that I brought along with me. This was a floral book, and this is one of my favorite books, and it's very hard to get. I think I had to order it from England, and it just has a lot of floral pictures, and each flower has a little poem and a meaning. But I just absolutely love the pictures in this book, so I use them for making little booklets and stuff. So we just distress the edges of that. And then we're going to take our glue, and we're just going to glue these on to the pages. And again, you want to go to the outsides of the piece of paper. You want to make sure those corners really stick down. Let's move this guy away. And I'm going to just glue him on there. So there's one. Let's glue the second one on here. The sun is shining today, so once I finish my video, I'm going to go sit outside and enjoy the sunshine. There we go. We'll just put this little guy on there. Very nice. I really like those little file folders. They're cute. And again, on the back, I can use a scrap of the lined paper that I have from that history book. One of these, I could just put one of those on there, or I can use this stamp and just stamp it right onto the backs of these as well. And I think I'm going to continue using the history paper. I did cut some down, and I was hoping these would fit on these little pages here, like that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and glue some of these lined pages onto these booklet pages here. And I'll see if I have enough to do one on every page. Some of the pages are gray and have an image faded in the background, and some are just white, so I'm using the white paper for the insides of these, and I've gone ahead and distressed the edges. Now you can add more to it. You can add a book page behind, but I'm just going to make a simple little booklet that I can use for maybe passwords. I'm thinking of making a little booklet to put all my website and passwords in there, and then keeping it with me when I travel instead of having to try and remember my logins. And I don't like to save them on my laptop when I bring my laptop or my iPad with me in case I lose it or it gets stolen, and all those passwords will be on available to anyone. So I'm going to see if I have enough of these to put on the inside. Let's just see how many we can get done here. I think I might have enough, so I might be able to get 12, which is a great number. And then the little labels at the top, the tabs at the top, if I use this for passwords, you know, I can have it for emails, I can have it for personal websites like my banking or my investments or anything like that. I can have one that is craft related or business related. You know, I can have all my social media accounts, that kind of thing. So we got those two. I should have enough to do all of them. But right now I'm just going to do the one side, and then I'll flip them over and do the other side. Like that. Perfect. We got one more. Okay, let's see how this looks. These 6 done. I dropped my, when I was distressing them, I dropped it on top of my ink pad right into the black. So hopefully that will get covered up a little bit more. So let's see how that looks so far. So when we open it up, we will have, well, that looks good. Yeah, so I'm going to see if I can have enough to do the other sides. Let's see what I've got in my pile here. It's funny when you get a clothing tag, you really don't look at it as, you know, most people just throw them away, but some of them come and they've got such unique shapes, or they've got little flip-ups that you can reuse or even trace it out onto a piece of file folder or cardstock, Tim Holtz cardstock paper, anything like that, and use that shape and reuse it and make it into your own tag rather than a clothing tag, or just cover the tag with paper or decoupage it. I find some of the tags are shiny, so they're harder to get things to stick to them. And you can just take a little tiny piece of fine sandpaper and just give it a little scrub with the sandpaper, and that will help. Now this one is a little bit shiny, so I don't think it'll be a problem, but again, you can just give it a quick sanding with the sandpaper. And this one has holes in it, so you can literally hang them, put a little pin or something through there, or a string through there, and you can hang this one up. Okay, let's see if I have enough here. Almost done. And then we'll work on decorating the outside of the booklet. And I am hoping to get to one of the used bookstores that they have here. And they have some really nice old antique books, and I'd like to maybe grab 1 or 2 more books to have to work with. I'm also doing another challenge with one of the ladies on my craft group, Took's Craft Table. She's doing a challenge just using an old book and leaving it together using the book pages that are in the book. And I'm just waiting to get the instructions for that. Hopefully I'll be able to find a book that I can use to follow along with her little challenge. And then perhaps incorporate some of the prompts that I've used, or maybe some of the items that I've created from my prompts. Use some of the overflow into that one as well. Okay, so there's the last one. Let's get this little guy in there. Perfect. Okay. And again, I had a little bit more room in there, so I could have added another page, but I didn't want to do that in case once I started adding all the, see, it's starting to fill in quite nicely. Once I started adding all the papers and stuff on there, I figured it would bulk up a little bit. And that I think is just going to work perfectly. So there we go. So now we're going to decorate the front, and I'm going to figure out what I want to put on the backs of these. So let me go have a look and see what I can find for the cover. Okay, I've gone through my little bag of scrapbooking paper scraps and found a couple of pieces of scrapbooking paper that I want to use. And I've cut them down to size. And again, I went just on the insides. So if this is 2.5 by 6, I went 2 1/4, maybe 2 inches to, this one is actually 5 7/8 by 2 3/8. And I cut one for the front and the back, and I distressed the edges. And I wanted to do that really quickly. And we'll glue these pieces on. So we're using up some of our scrap file folder pieces, and I keep all my little plastic bag there with all my scrapbooking pieces. Actually, I'm going to take the insides out just so I don't glue anything together here. And we're just going to place that on the front like that. And then we'll glue the back on. And you want to make sure your pattern, if you're using a pattern paper, is going in the same direction. So there is my front and back pieces. I'm a scrap. So this little piece I will probably throw away. I try to save anything that has a little bit of width to it. And then I took my little stamp here, and I did go ahead and just stamp that on the back of the cards. So we did use our little stamp as well for our little file folders. Like that. And then I was thinking of using a little book plate here. I brought some of my small metal book plates, and they must have got smushed in the drive over. And then I found some scrap bits of my lined paper that I have from my old journal, and I'm going to create this little piece that will go underneath, and it says passwords, and I just wrote the word passwords on there myself, and I'll trim that to fit inside, but that will sit on there like that. And then I may add a piece of, I can find it, a piece of fabric underneath there as well. So I'm just going to work on that, putting that together. Let me just see if I can find my little piece of scrap fabrics. I had some little tiny pieces left over. And heaven only knows where I put them. Alright, let's just grab a new piece. Saves a lot of time. So I want it to go underneath that, so I'm just going to tear it there and perhaps there. So let's rip that one first. And then this way. So we turn that off. Just take that little piece off. So maybe I'll glue that on there. And then I will attach that to there, and then this will just slide inside that. It's got a bit of a warp. Okay, so let's glue the fabric on. And this is just a scrap piece of the muslin that I brought along with me. So that will go there. Oops, stick that on my finger. And then same thing, I'm going to put this on a flatter surface here. Better. I'm going to put that on there like that, and I'm going to grab a piece of my pad here. I'm going to mark it first, just so if it moves, then I know where I want it to go. There and there. And I'm just going to, I should probably let this dry, but we'll go ahead and keep going. There we go. There's one hole. There's 2 holes. We'll need 2 new brads. And I'll put that on there. And I might need a little bit bigger hole. Let's see if I can push these brads through. If not, I will enlarge the hole. Looks like I have to go a little bigger. Let's just pick it up and push all through it, and it'll make a bigger hole. There we go. Better. And let's add a little bit of glue just to hold it in place once it gets there. Take the webbing out of the center. There we go. There we go. And let's just push that one through and that one through. I do have smaller brads. I should probably use the smaller ones, but that's okay. Come on. There we go. Flip that over. And just push the feet apart. There we go. There. And I'm just going to add a quick little piece of masking tape over top of that, and then we'll find some scraps to put on the inside. Okay, let's put that back on. So there is our little, is it straight? Looks straight enough. And then this, I just have to trim up a little bit on either end. And that should just slide right down into there. Like that. So there's my passwords. There's my insides. Get rid of that little guy. There. Now let's find some scraps for the inside of the book. And I just go through my scrapbooking papers and find something that's wide enough. And again, these are all just scraps from different projects that I was working on. I like to save all my bits and pieces. Let's tickle my arm here. How about that? That will work. So we need the 2 3/8, I believe I said 2 3/8. Yep, by 5 7/8. So we'll cut that. 2 1 2 3/8. 5 7/8. that should fit on the inside. Yep, and we're going to round out our corners. Oh dear. Something just fell over. Okay, so there's one. And the nice thing about this is the pattern can be moved all around. So we're just going to open up our book. And I've just glued the pages together. No, I haven't. Okay. And then we will have one for the inside and one for this side. There. And we'll quickly just add a light distressing. You don't really need it so much for the inside. And I'm using the darker brown for this because this paper is quite dark. You won't be able to see the distressing if I use the vintage photo. So I think this is like a, what one was this one? Brown espresso. And you can really see that brown, which is nice. There. See the difference in the two pieces? Just makes it stand out a little bit more. So quickly finish this one up. Okay, and that will go on that side, so let's glue that on. There we go. Go. That will go on that side, and that will cover our little bread legs. And I just have to pick it up because of the book plate on the front. It makes it very wobbly. There we go. So that will now go like that. So we have our little booklet, passwords. It has book pages on the inside. And you can label on the tabs what kind of password it is, whether it's personal, banking, social media, art inspirations, whatever they are. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these little, I'm only going to sew like 3 holes in these. So using my ruler, I'll just kind of eyeball and make 3 little holes. And then the center. I'll make 3 little holes, and then I'll do the same thing with these. I'll just stack them all together and punch some holes. So I might try my new little machine here. I bought this at Joann Fabrics with a 50% off coupon. So I think it ended up costing me $12. And we're just going to, let's see, these will be easier to do first. So let's put these inside one another and get those all in there, and then they go inside this, and then you put your little template thing on top and screw it back on, and it holds it in place for you, and you decide where you want your holes to be. So let's do one right at the top there, and one in the middle, and one at the bottom. And I'm just going to mark with a pencil beside the ones that I've used. Hopefully I can see that. So let's write it down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Perfect. And they all have the same holes in them. there, and then we just have to do the same thing with this one. And I think I'm actually going to do it, ooh, this is going to be more difficult. I think I'll do the first ones from this. Okay, let's see, I'm going to try and figure this out. Okay, I've got my holes punched in there. I put them in the wrong spot, so I just took an extra scrap piece of my file folder, and I made another little spine and put it on top. I did the same for the back. And then I just took my sleeve where the holes are already punched, and you always make the bottom level, and then I just made a little mark where the holes were punched, like that. And then I just took my awl and punched one on the outside, and then did one down the center. So I have my 3 holes for 3 of these. I'm just going to grab my waxed thread here, and I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to make it about 8 widths. I'm going to grab my little needle out of my needle booklet here. And with the waxed thread, you can actually flatten it out just with your nail by pulling on it like that. And it flattens out the thread. And you can slide it now into the needle hole. And I just ordered this waxed thread through Amazon. And I think I'm just going to go in and out, in and out, in and out, and see how that goes. So let's try hole number 1. Actually, let's make the hole on the inside. Do I want the hole on the inside? No, I want the hole on the outside because it's going to be a thick tie. So I'm going to pull that one through. Make sure my paper is upside right. Pull that one through and go through the middle hole. Go through the top hole. Go back into the middle hole. Like that. And then I'm going to grab my second one, close that up. Going to go down into my third hole here. Hold on, let's see if I can do this right. Pull that little tail out of the way. That tail's pretty long. Let's move him, make him smaller. The way it's done. There we go. Pull that nice and tight. There. And then I'm going to move this tail out of the way and put it back through that hole there. No, I can't, because then I'll be in the inside of the book. Let's try it this way. We're going to go in through the bottom of the middle hole instead of back through that other one. I'm winging it here, folks. We'll see if it works. There we go. Going into that one, into the middle one, in through the middle hole. Make sure we're in the right holes. Pull that and go in through the center hole. Ouch, stabbed my thumb. Pull that nice and tight and go back down through the center. Like that. And then we're going to go into the third one. Through the bottom hole, into the bottom hole of this booklet, page, into the center hole, into the top hole. Let me just do it this way so I can see what I'm doing. And into the top hole of the blue booklet. And it just slid out. So let's do that again. There we go. And pull that nice and tight. Back through the center. And then you just want to make sure they're all nice and tight. And I'm going to actually go underneath the bottom two threads so that I meet up with this one in the corner here. And I'm going to tie that into a, and then if you just push on it, the waxed thread should hold your knot in place while you pull. And then we're just going to cut these little pieces off. If I can get a hold of them. Like that. And there we go. We have our little password book. Sorry I was fumbling with that. I'm trying to see, and it's getting rather dark in here. Okay, so we have our little password book with the cover, the scrapbooking paper on the cover, scrapbooking paper on the inside, and these are all made with scrap pieces that I had in my stash. I've got some lined paper here. There. So there is your little password book made to resemble the clothing tag, made out of scraps. And these are some other things that we made out of the file folder scraps as well. And then those other tags. These other little bits and pieces here, business cards, small file folders, and other tags. And these, again, were just all scraps that I had. So that's it for day number 6. Thank you so much for watching. Now I have to clean up my mess because I have stuff absolutely everywhere. And I hope to see you tomorrow.